Hey guys, we're here today in Valheim to have a look at moats and ground walls. And as you can see here, we have a lot of testing stations ready to figure out how deep and wide a moat needs to be, or how tall and thick a ground wall needs to be in order to effectively defend your base. The most important thing to keep in mind when building a ground wall or digging a moat is that when you dig the hill up, creatures can run over the rounded edges. So when building a ground wall to simply stop regular creatures from wandering in your base, it does not matter how high you go. The important part is that the edges are flattened. You need to use a pick to do this after building the ground wall. You can see here that I have an approximately 2 meter high ground wall, and even the agile wolf cannot run over it. So with enough work and time, you can even get a short ground wall to operate and not let enemies outside of it. Another thing you want to keep in mind with moats is it does not matter if it is one wall width, which is 2 meters wide, or if you go 4 meters wide, which is 2 walls width. From my experience with testing, it is difficult to get enemies like trolls to fall into the moat, so you may need to consider putting a ramp down or a sloped edge somewhere so that they can slide in. This is assuming that you even want to catch the enemies and not just deter them, which this moat does just a fine job at. If you are interested in getting them trapped in the moat so you can deal with them at a later time, the harpoon does do a good job at getting him in there. And you can see here that a troll will get trapped in even a 2 meter wide moat, and you don't need it to be that big. Obviously, the pros to a 4 meter wide moat is you can trap more things, since enemies do not clip through each other and they will push each other out of the way. Now we're going to move on to a few of the distance tests, and for these tests we will be in God mode, so I can get the creatures to swing at me near the walls but not kill me during it, so we don't deal with the hassle of respawns and things like that. My initial plans with this video was to go through a lot of the enemies in the game and show you what size ground wall or moat will deal with them, but as I did some testing, I realized that a lot of them cannot make it through even a single wall high ground wall, like the Fuling Berserker here, who I felt like should have some of the most range. I'm showing that to you here now, but this video is pretty much just a sequel to Defense Against Trolls, because they're the only one that really matters. You can see when we have pretty much a 0 width ground wall at only 1 wall high, that the Fuling Berserker is struggling to hit anything. He hit this top piece just now in the corner one time with his slam. And if he does his slam, every now and then he is hitting the pieces, but not very well. All you have to do is build 2 meters away from the wall and he won't be able to hit you. And it does not matter how high you do it or how wide you do it, because this is the thinnest we can do. You can see here that if we actually make a decent ground wall with some decent width to it, that he won't be able to reach any of the pieces on the other side. In fact, this guy is not even really attempting to hit anything. There he goes. But yeah, he cannot reach any of the pieces over here, no matter how long you leave him in here, if you make the ground wall decently wide. The Fuling Berserkers represent all the medium-sized creatures in the game, like goblin brutes, and hit a little bit wider than them. Things like wolves and regular gray dwarfs or regular Fulings also cannot reach, so then we have to talk about range creatures. And I feel like the most dangerous of these is the Fuling Shaman. They are a little interesting with their bolt attacks. They will hit over a 1 meter ground wall, and they can actually damage buildings pretty decently. So if we were to go right up against the wall against like a Fuling Shaman, their splash damage will hit the wall if they start firing at it. And it's a similar situation as the Goblin Berserker, where we need to be about 2 meters away or just build a thicker ground wall. And he'll start hitting the top edge. Again, this is assuming that you're not building a giant tower of a building, and if you're doing that, then you need to have a taller ground wall or be a little bit farther away from him, because his arc can still hit the higher edges at the right angle. Now, once we move on from the Fuling Shaman, or even Grey Dwarf Shaman, or Spear Throwers from the Goblins, if you're building a wall defense for trolls, you will be plenty high to stop all of their attacks and won't have to worry about anything else. Now, as we are talking about trolls in this video, it's important to note that there are 2 different types of trolls. You have your one troll with the giant tree branch in his hand, and then the one without. The one with the big tree branch will do either an overhead swing that deals massive damage, or his standard horizontal swing. The troll without a tree branch will do his standard swing. He will mix it up with a ground slam, and then finally he will do his boulder throw, which has the highest range. While the troll with the tree branch does not have any long range attack and will only attack with that branch, although it's got much longer range than the standard troll's attack. The thing you'll see that's interesting about the trolls is even in a 2-meter high ground wall, he cannot walk out or escape. So height does not really matter as long as the edges are flattened. But he can still wreck a lot of building pieces through it. Even though they cannot get out of a short ground wall, even doing a tall one, his attacks go directly through the wall and break building pieces through it, and they do not care about the terrain or the ground. This means that all the tests I've run over them with moats and ground walls don't actually matter because the terrain doesn't matter. It pretty much just comes down to attack range. The height only really matters when it comes to the boulder throw to see at what height they can't throw over the wall. And the overhead swing for the troll when it comes to moats did die off at a certain point, and I'll show you those. But first, we're going to talk about ranges a little bit. As we discussed earlier, different width ground walls handle things differently. Essentially, from the inside of the wall of where the troll is, the attack range for the one with the tree branch is 6 meters. So 0 would be the front of this, and then he would have a 2-meter mark, a 4, and a 6-meter mark. And when this troll hits correctly, he can hit all the way up to this wall at the 6-meter mark. So building 8 meters away from the inside portion of your ground wall is the safe area. When it comes to the boulder throwing one, his range is actually much, much less. His boulder can go over walls that are not tall enough, and we'll discuss the height you need in a minute. But outside of that, his actual attack range only gets to about 2 meters. So with a ground wall that's thick like this, we can actually build right up against it like this piece of board here, and he cannot hit it. Not with his ground slam or his regular attack. If we're building a really thin ground wall, then we just need to be over 2 meters from the inside, and we're all good. So essentially 4 meters away from the regular troll, and 8 meters away from the tree branch troll. These numbers will also apply to moats. You need to be from the inside of the wall, 8 meters away for the tree branch troll, and 4 meters away for the regular troll. Now it's time to discuss height a little bit. The regular troll's boulder throw can go over 3 walls high in a moat or ground wall, which is 6 meters, and he can make it a decent amount, although he has trouble even throwing it sometimes or getting aggro. His regular attacks will not hit the walls, but his boulder throw will go over them and hit the walls at the right angle. There you go. And he hits the front wall there. And through my testing, it seems like 6 meters away from the edge of the ground wall here will avoid most of the boulder throws due to the angle. Although this is not guaranteed, it kind of depends on your setup. And with the 3-wall high moat like this, the troll with the tree branch reaches his entire range and can hit up to 6 meters of walls, and you need to be 8 meters away in order to stay safe. Once we get to 3.5 walls high, which is 7 meters in height, I have not seen the standard troll here be able to get a boulder out from it. And you can also tell by the walls that it is about his exact height. So if you have the wall the troll's height, then he has some struggles throwing his boulders. He won't throw them most of the time, and when he does, they don't have much success at all getting out of it. And you can see right there, he tried to throw one and a boulder did not even come out. So if you get this deep in a moat, the trolls should not be able to hit your base, even if it's right up against it, at least with boulders. And if you do it with a ground wall, they cannot get over it, although they can still hit through the ground wall, unlike the moat here. The tree branch guys cannot hit your building pieces with their standard horizontal swing once you even get to 3 walls high, which is 6 meters. And at this 3.5 wall high, his overhead swing can only hit up to 4 meters, it seems. And if you build 6 meters away in this setup, then they should be safe. Now, Valheim has a dig limit on how far down you are able to go, and in my 3.5 wall high area, I cannot dig any deeper, really. It keeps just resetting how I'm standing and will not get any deeper. I do, however, have a setup here that is 4 walls high, which is 8 meters deep, and I was able to dig a little deeper just in a different spot. So in order to build something this deep, you might have to build in a particular area, but it is accomplishable to have a moat that is deeper than 4 walls. If you can manage doing something like this, then the tree branch troll's overhead attack that I've seen can only hit the front wall, which would mean that just 2 meters is safe from him, and you can build fairly close to the edge of the moat. Again, some of these don't apply to ground walls since they hit directly through the terrain on those, and the ground wall, all that matters is the height for the boulder throw, which is 7 meters tall, or 3.5 walls, and the tree branch troll, it only matters if you're building a ground wall on how far away from the wall you are. If you are working on ground walls or moats for defense, then it does not really matter in terms of every regular creature and what you do. Most of them get stopped by a basic 1 wall high ground wall, and ranged ones like the Goblin Shaman, you need to pay attention to the arc or the angle that they have. A 1 wall high ground wall will still work for them if you're not building that close or that high, and if you're going to build up higher or closer to it, you just need to go up higher and higher with the wall, and you can kind of tell the angle they can fire. The trolls with a boulder need to be at 3.5 walls high, which is 7 meters, in order to stop the boulder throw. Outside of their boulder throw, their regular attacks reach only 2 meters, which means you need to be 4 meters from the inside edge of the ground wall or the moat. The tree branch troll has a 6 meter range, which means from the inside edge of the ground wall or the moat, you need to be 8 meters away when you build. And the thickness of your ground wall does matter. Making it thicker will count towards the range since we're going from the inside edge. So if you had a really thick ground wall, you would be able to build much closer with your building pieces. Alrighty guys, there we are, a little bit of info on ground walls and moats and what you need to accomplish in order to trap certain creatures in it or defend your base. Don't worry too much about the depth unless you're worrying about the boulder throwers or ranged ones, and the more important part is just how far away from the wall you build in general. Ground walls can cost quite a bit once you try to start building them to a certain height and width, and moats can be difficult to get creatures actually into without giving them some sort of ramp system to go in and out of, which might even defeat the purpose. They both have their downsides, however, once they're up, they are indestructible, so they are worth it in some areas and might serve your base well. Hopefully all this information was helpful to you. I will see you next time.